Mandolin slicers, it's such a convenient tool at home, but I know a lot of people are afraid of these mandolin blades. You know what though? Though mandolin blades are a lot more dangerous because you put more force into it and that will cause a devastating accident. Today I'm gonna show you how to sharpen this mandolin blades right here. So today I'm gonna use this Shiba Kilo mandolin slicers. And what you really need is this tool. Doesn't have to be multi-tool, but you need some screwdriver to remove the blades off. For actual sharpening, what I'm going to use today is a Naniwa Professional 400, Naniwa Hibiki 1000, and Naniwa Hibiki 3000. And don't forget any type of stone holders to give a little bit of stability. It doesn't slip around, as well as the chewing stone. These three stones are slightly harder stone than the regular, say, a Knifewear stones. I decided to use these because these don't wear as fast. It helps to retain the straight edge of the mandolin blades a little bit easier than the softer stones. Just because these stones can stay flat a little bit longer. So if you're gonna use the regular softer stones, just make sure to flatten a little bit more regularly. Unscrew the screws that is holding a main blade here. After I unscrew these main blades, this main blades can actually slide it over to the side like this. Like any handy people know, to keep these screws in secure place. We're gonna go step by step on how you can avoid, I guess, injuries, but it is a little bit awkward. So just be mindful when you are sharpening or holding onto the blade that does not have any handles. How the mandolin blades work is like a single bevel knives, like Deba, Yanagiba, and Usubas. They're primarily only sharpened on one side, and there is no bevel or the angle on the back. That allows food to fall when you're actually using them. If you put the bevel here, this is the flat side or the top side, it will not work as well as a mandolin blade. So just be mindful. You want to focus on the side where the bevel is, then the back you do not want to put any bevels on. And at the very end, like any other single bevel knives, like I will put the small micro bevel on beveled sides. We call it koba or itoba or whatever you want to call it, but we're gonna make a little bit of small koba on the end as well. So I'm gonna start from this Naniwa Pro now. They call it the 400 stone here. This stone is great. It's a splash and go, so just a little bit of water here. First step of sharpening mandolin blades is actually pretty simple. What you want to do is lay the mandolin blades flat and put the pressure. It will give you the proper angle. How I hold it is I hold it like this. Pinch it with my two fingers, index finger and the thumb, and thumb will kind of keep my pressure right here. My other hand, I'm just gonna keep it right here and just back and forth. But just want to make sure you maintain that angle that the bevel is made of. First couple strokes on the 400 grit stone, you'll be able to tell which part of the blade is touching on the stone. Here, you can see about a millimeter from the edge is nicely evenly touched on the stone here, and so is a little bit of top part here. Because mandolin blades, when they manufacture it, they use this machine to grind this part off, so this part is a concave. You do not have to work until this concavity is all gone, but what you want to make sure is that you sharpen enough of this part so that you can start to feel the burr from the other side. What the burr means is that as you keep sharpening and grinding the steel off from this part, it will start to curl up or roll up onto the other side, so there will be some kind of metal catch on this end. It has not happened yet, so I'll keep sharpening until I start to feel the burr on the other side. Now I have a little bit of burr on the other side here. Again, as I explained it earlier, you don't have to worry about these machine grinded marks left on here. The more you sharpen, you lose more metal and it gets a little bit shorter life of the blade. So stop right here, just enough so that I have a burr on the other side. Okay, before I move on to the next stone, the 1000, I am actually gonna take this burr off with using the little finer 3000 stone. These again blades are sharpened from one side, the other side is pretty flat. So what I'm going to do is put flat, and I still do apply the pressure along the edge here though, right? Instead of like putting pressure on the other side of the edge, I'm gonna put the pressure along the edge here. Probably the best way is to remove the burr is, you know, put it the half of the blade down like this. Make sure the stone is pretty flat, then just do a few strokes like this to remove the burr. This way you can actually put the actual pressure on the blade instead of like this. For this step, I'm just making sure the back is flat as well as the touches on the stone really nicely. Make sure there is no burr so that the burr that you raise is going to be a 1000 grit burr rather than the 400 burr. So that's good. I am going to move to this 1000 grit. Again, angle stays the same. Make sure stone is really nice and flat. So the pressure I'm putting is not too hard. I mean, especially when you're sharpening the blade like this one, you don't want to put too much pressure because it can impede the, I mean, like I guess my ability to slide around like this, nice and even. Because if you put too much pressure, it doesn't slide. And when that happens for the blade like this, it is much more dangerous. So I do it very lightly, so that it slides on top of the stone nicely. I just finished on the Hibiki 1000 grit. I've got a real nice burr. So what I'm going to do is, again, remove the burr with 3000 grit, then proceed to sharpen one side with the 3000. So the burr that you feel on the 1000 grit will be slightly smaller than the 400 grit that you raised. It's not significantly. Again, I didn't raise the significant burr as this didn't need major repairs or anything. I just raised the enough burr so that I can move on. I'm going to finish this on the Hibiki 3000 grit. Some mandolin blades are set to perpendicular or parallel. Where you want to take a look, it's like this. For those mandolin blades, you are pushing into the blades a little bit more forcibly. What I would suggest for those blades, that you finish those blades with a little bit finer grit, or always finish finer than 3000. You can finish at 3000 grit, but finer will do a better job. Since this mandolin blades is set, the blade is set the diagonal like this, if you finish it 1000, it still works fine. But today I'm going to finish with this 3000 grit stone. All you have to do on this 3000, it's pretty much the same. I'll show you at the very end to actually get a little bit more strength to the blade. So that is the only difference that you want to do with this 3000 grit. Very lightly, same angle as the bevel has already been created. Ultimately, you want to feel a small burr. You may not be able to feel it as you're not removing as much steel from this point on. So just focus on the technique, do back and forth until that the plane that you're sharpening becomes really nice and shiny and clean. Now I'm done on this 3000 grit stone on this bevel side. It's pretty nice and flat. Alrighty, so I can feel the little bit of burr on the back side as well. What I'm going to do though is to actually give a bit of more angle to this blade to give it a little bit more strength. This angle is really shallow. I would say it's like 5 degrees. Even the blade that is not going to touch on the cutting board, this is way too fragile. Say when you're trying to do a little bit harder root vegetables. Say for example, I just did it for New Year's lotus roots and stuff like that, it may actually damage this blade with this fine edge. So what I'm going to do is give we call it the koba. Give about this, you can definitely give 15 degrees on this one. You can grab one of those. It's a angle guide. It has a 15 degrees and 20 degrees on the side. You can just set it on the stone like this and 15 degrees from this bevel. So actual, give the actual edge a 15 degrees. It'll be a little bit awkward, so just don't be afraid to take your time. You do not have to go back down to 1000. You could go back down to 1000 first, but since the edge is already being sharpened up to 3000 grit, I'm just gonna keep going with this 3000 until you raise a pretty good burr. Then, once you have the burr raised, just gonna finish up with taking the burr off. Alright, so I did it pretty gently at the end to remove the burr. Deburring on the stones for the mandolin blade is usually enough, but I'm just gonna get one of those leathers just to overkill this blade. Yeah, you don't really have to do this, but I'm just gonna grab a leather strap to strap off any excess burr. Then test. So that's how you can sharpen the blade. I'm gonna actually reinstall back onto the this base here. Don't make this a upside down. I don't know if you can. Just make sure the back side of the blade, or where the bevel where there is no bevel, that sits on top like this. So the bevel side will basically make it like peeling action. If you put the bevel on this side, what can happen is that when you push it in, it doesn't work as the proper mandolin. So just make sure on the back side you do not want to put any bevel on the back side of this blade. So yeah, that's how you can sharpen a blade for mandolin. If you have any questions, just leave it a comment below or tell us what you want to sharpen next.